Hello, welcome everybody to another edition of OnPrem Pros. I'm your host, Ryan Brown, and I'm joined by my normal partners in crime, Mr. Tyler Young, Mr. Josh Bosch, Solutions Architects here at xByte Technologies. And today we have a special guest. I'm going to try and get his last name correct. It's a little behind the scenes. I butchered it a couple times before the show. So Mikko Peltoniemi. Did I commit to it?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Welcome. Mikko is the director of IT for xByte. And he's got a fun tagline on his LinkedIn profile. It says, "Food industry IT is my bread and butter." So he's a funny guy too. So he is here to talk about his architecture refresh journey and how they ultimately decided on Dell's PowerStore. So Mikko, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. That's a lot of pressure, actually. How to make architecture refresh funny. There's a lot of pressure on me now.
I know. Yeah, I shouldn't have opened up with your funny tagline on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So now it's the pressure. So Mikko, I mean, besides being super funny on your LinkedIn taglines, can you give us a little 30-second blurb about yourself and a little about xByte?
Yeah. So xByte, we're a ice cream flavoring manufacturer. So what we do is we manufacture all kinds of sauces. They're called variegates or bases and inclusions that the ice cream makers use in their ice creams when they make them. And the company was founded in 1890. So we're a 135-year-old company. So there's a lot of history behind the company. I've been with the company for 20 years already. It'll be 20 years later on this year. So when I came to the company, when I came to xByte, the server room was basically just a box in a corner of the lunchroom, right next to the fridge and the sink. Because of course, no server room is complete without a sink and running water. So that was
fire suppression.
Yeah, that's true too.
Liquid cooling, right?
That was yeah, liquid cooling. That was a good one. So
we're funny too.
So that was 20 years ago. So obviously things have changed quite a bit, but we've gone through several iterations of technology all through the years. Of course, 20 years ago, there was no hyperconverged infrastructure. There was no virtualization. There was none of that. But also, besides that, the company was a lot smaller. We've grown a lot over the years. We probably doubled 2, 3, no more than that, 3 times at least. Whatever metric you want to use, whether you want to use number of employees, the square footage, whatever metric you want to use, we've grown a lot. So of course, that puts a lot of, pressure on the IT systems too. How do you keep delivering those IT systems that are required for producing food, especially food production in today's modern world? There's a lot of regulatory compliance, and our customers too, they put a lot of pressure on us because they're the large manufacturers of ice cream. If you've had ice cream in the US, you probably had something that we made. So on one side we get pressure from the regulatory side, on the other end we get pressure from our customers to keep delivering those products like we do. So and all that has to happen, with IT being basically in the background. We're not a technology company. We don't really put a lot of emphasis on our production equipment as far as, when it comes. It's not what I mean. It's not really visible to the customers. All our IT equipment, nobody really cares. All they care is about their flavors. Can they get their flavors on time? Can they get good quality product, which is what we give our customers.
Awesome. And back before this whole new architecture, you guys are running Storage Spaces Direct or Azure Stack HCI. I think they've changed it. Even now, I think it's called Azure Local. So they've changed the name a few times on that. But
yes.
Storage Spaces Direct, kind of a lot of people, S2D people know it as. So can you, beyond just being S2D, can you kind of talk about what your workloads look like or currently look like, your VMs, how many users do you guys have, just to kind of give an idea of, as people are thinking about how their experience compares to you guys, how they relate to you?
So yeah, so we're a mid-sized company. We have about 150 employees. It varies a little, the busy season and the not so busy season. But besides that, so our workloads aren't really out of the ordinary. We have a SQL server, we have file servers, we have different kinds of specialized servers for controlling PLCs. None of that stuff is really, it doesn't take a lot of compute, a lot of storage, a lot of bandwidth per se. So what I've always been really forward is in investing in the availability, in the reliability and the redundancy of the equipment, because again, we do some on the production floor. There's some PLCs that we use, for example, to monitor the temperature of the product, and that needs to be running constantly when the production is running. Otherwise, there's a danger that we will just have to discard everything that we made and start from all over. That's a lot of money. So for that purpose alone, it's really important that everything runs all the time, everything's super reliable, and that has really been the emphasis of the solution that we picked. Originally, years and years ago, we had a iSCSI array from Dell. We had an EqualLogic. From EqualLogic, then we moved on to the storage-based direct cluster. The reason being, at that point when we moved to the storage-based direct, was because I wanted to reduce that single point of failure of having that EqualLogic, and then storage-based direct was a good solution at that point. So then came time to refresh, and we went through several different iterations of different setups, different configurations. How could we get the same thing done? But ultimately, unfortunately, there was a huge increase in cost, because the previous time we refreshed on infrastructure was pre-COVID. After COVID, there's been just a skyrocket of costs, and we are a family-owned company. We have a budget. I don't think anybody works on an unlimited budget, so we are very budget conscious. So we were trying to really figure out what is the most cost-effective solution that we can get, but at the same time giving the same reliability that we had before, because I didn't want to give up that reliability by going back to storage array or something like that. So that's what we ended up with, the solution where we actually have 2 arrays, 2 PowerStores, and then we have a set of servers, the cluster nodes. But because we've also grown so much that we have several different buildings, we have 2 of those storage arrays, and then half of the nodes in each building. So they're split between 2 different buildings. So that gives us the redundancy, at least if an entire building is lost forever. If there's even a power outage or something like that in a single building, we can still continue to operate just as we were before. So that was really the driving force between with the solution that we got. Was we wanted to keep that same level of redundancy. Again, our storage and compute and networking, we weren't really doing anything really that demanding in that sense. Whatever solutions we got, they were more than enough to handle all that. The only exception to that is we have our CCTVs, which does take up a lot of compute and a lot of storage, but that storage array is not part of this PowerStore array, so we store that separately. But because of that, we also wanted to have graphics cards on each of the servers to make sure that we could then move the CCTV server to any one of the nodes in case of a failure, so we could keep recording the footage. So that was the only real technical requirement that I had with the new servers, with the new array that we had.
Okay, so and we were talking before the show. You were thinking at first to or really wanted to stick with storage spaces direct because that had been what you were used to, and you're like, all right, like I gave up that single point of failure with my storage array years ago. I want to kind of keep with this hyper-converged infrastructure. So you went to Dell and you said, hey, Dell, this is what I'm looking to do. And then what happened when you went to Dell?
Yeah, so Dell told us that now we have to go to a reseller. So they won't. We've been Dell customer for the whole time I've been here. I've been here 20 years. So Dell recently made the decision that they will shift their sales towards resellers more. So also we had to go to a reseller. That's how they referred us to xByte at that point, at the same point. And then I got into touch with Tyler pretty much from the get-go. So we started going through the different kinds of configurations, really, and looking at the prices. And it definitely was a sticker shock at first because I think it was something like that. A single node cost as much as the entire system last time when we refreshed. So
that's a lot more.
That was a huge increase in cost. And again, that was a difficult pill to swallow also because, I didn't feel like we needed that huge increase in compute, huge increase in storage. There was some growth. There was some growth in storage. There was some growth in compute. But at the same time, the current servers that we had were still able to handle it. The only thing was, of course, because they were already 5 years old, so we had to move on. Because if you try to renew maintenance on a 5-year-old server, 6-year-old server, you'll find out that it's going to start to get really expensive. Because of course,
and limiting, because you probably only have a few years left that they'll even renew that warranty.
That's true. There's going to be that cutoff time. It's going to be at some point. I didn't expect the process to take as long as it did. It did take a long time just because we went through so many different iterations, and the prices, last year, 2024, they were very fluid. It seemed like constantly things were changing. I think it's been like that since COVID, really.
Yeah. I want to ask you about something because, and Josh, Tyler, cover your ears for this one. Dell recommended you go to a partner, but I mean, you had trusted Dell for years. How did you feel having to go to a partner? I mean, you didn't know these guys for anything. I mean,
I didn't. I really didn't, and that was also felt a little. It felt almost like being dumped or something like that. You have to go. All of a sudden, you've been with them for 20 something years, 19 years, and then all of a sudden they say, "Well, I'm sorry, we can't sell you anything. You have to go to to these guys over here." And I didn't know you guys from Adam, xByte from Adam at that point.
Those letters are way far apart. A and X. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So it was definitely a change, a cultural change too, which was a little. I'll admit it was difficult to swallow at first, but like I said, I was like, well, there's no way around it. We'll have to keep going. We do need to get this project done. So then with Tyler, we were in pretty good contact over email. I always prefer email as a method of contact too. I don't really like to get on the phone. Some people do. I prefer email, the best way to contact me. And we definitely sent a lot of emails over the next several months, with different options. Tyler, I forget how many iterations we went through, but we went through several different options, and it was just trying to nail it. It was like moving target, trying to nail down that thing. I did keep feeling like maybe there's some unicorn solution out there that we just didn't look at, that we just missed that, and also, of course, because this was happening, these two things were happening at the same time. Dell was pushing off to a reseller, and there was a huge increase in the cost of the servers. So of course, you have to think about, well, is there a correlation between this?
Yeah. Is the reseller taking a big cut?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So that did not escape my mind too, and we definitely, or I definitely thought of that too. And I asked around. I go every year. I go to Dell Technologies World in Las Vegas. I asked around there too. They had, of course, on the floor there, they have different um, yeah, they like people. I'm trying to think what they are, like solution.
Okay.
Yeah, so server solution experts, and I asked about this specific thing, and the one person that I talked over there, he did recognize this as an issue, specifically because we happen to be in a market segment where we're just too small for the really big stuff, but at the same time we've definitely grown out of the simple server architecture. So we kind of happen to fall into a specific niche where we're kind of in between those two, and that's why the cost increase. That's why there was a huge cost increase, because he also explained that a single server, even though yes, it costs as much as our system did before, a single server, as far as compute and storage goes, is as powerful as the entire system that we got before. However, because I wasn't really benefiting necessarily from the compute or the storage, I wanted that redundancy, and for redundancy, a single system won't do. So therefore, we were really in a bind. This was really the only option we had, available.
And Tyler, you were involved from the beginning on that sales process with Mikko here. So hearing what Mikko said about, hey, he had to, he didn't necessarily want to go to a partner. I mean, he trusted Dell for a while. What did you do to kind of help Mikko feel comfortable going to a partner for the first time?
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of, I guess, reiterate too. I mean, it was definitely something that went through my mind as well. Of the first time working with a new partner, right? Where first time working with xByte, and prices again, like you mentioned, right? The cost of one node now is more expensive than the whole solution that you previously had, and that's something that I know we worked really hardly or really closely on the back end with his Dell Direct team to try and just do everything we can to get back, to the bottom of that as well. And just there was unfortunately nothing we could do, and that's part of why I think it also took so long for us to kind of really dive through every solution to do everything we could to try and keep him on that same architecture that he was so comfortable with for so long. Because right, I mean, I know we always joke about this, but it's true. It's if it's not broke, don't fix it. Right. I mean, it's something that has really, gained his trust over the years, and that solution has really kind of been the backbone of their infrastructure. So, making that transition, not only trusting a new, team that you're working with for the solution, but also trusting a new architecture. I think that again, there's just, definitely a lot of trust, that definitely, that Mikko had. So definitely do appreciate that. And I definitely think that the fact that we both happen to be at Dell World, and we're able to kind of set aside some time, because I guess sidebar real quick, you're nonstop at Dell Tech World. I mean, there is just meeting after meeting, training after training, I mean, especially again, Mikko's been going for 10, 15 years now. So I mean,
Yeah,
Mikko's a
yeah,
bit of a
long
hot shot there.
time.
He's he knows everything in and out there. He's in all the little VIP sections and everything. So again, just trying to lock down some time. But thankfully we're able to kind of meet, in the in one of the sections that they had there or whatnot, and grab lunch and really just kind of talk through, not only just on a professional level, but also just really get to know each other personally too. And I really think that definitely did kind of break down some of those barriers for both of us, because that was my first time I've ever really had been face to face with a customer, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mikko, that was the first time you've ever been face to face with somebody from an account standpoint as well, from a Dell or Dell umbrella partner side of things as well. So again, it was really cool just to kind of just not put the technology side to the side for a second, and really just kind of get to know each other, and again, I think that really just helped just really understand each other and understand kind of what Mikko's ambitions for this architecture was, and goals and everything. And I know he said it a couple of times, but truly is redundancy has been really the motto of the whole project. And again, again, that's another thing I want to apply for Mikko too, just because, not to talk about any other customers as well, but I mean, a lot of customers unfortunately don't have the budget or even the ambitions to really have a lot of levels of redundancy built into their architecture until something bad happens and they have that oh crap moment.
Yeah.
So again, like that to be so high level for you for so long, it definitely, like I said, definitely want to applaud you there. But yeah,
Yeah, I think for the food industry especially, you can't have those bad moments, because I mean, as Mikko, you mentioned in the beginning, that reliability it's forced upon you, because you may have to trash a full production run if something goes wrong and you can't prove that the temperatures were at the safe levels the whole time.
Right.
And I know, Mikko, you had mentioned during some pre-show discussions, some of the things that you liked about working with a partner, kind of specific to xByte, is that we walked you slowly through the process. We weren't your typical pushy salespeople trying to push you into a solution. We really wanted to, with your help, explore the options and kind of find out what makes sense. And even I think Tyler was even mentioning to me in another conversation that we were able to find experts in the Microsoft product, in storage-based direct, from Dell, I believe, or it could have been independent, and answered your question. So we have our own experts with Josh and Tyler and the team of solution architects, but we were able to also pull in others who needed very specific expertise to answer some questions that you had, and kind of put your mind at ease that yes, actually they really can't do what you were hoping they could do.
Yeah. So at Dell World also, I met, besides Tyler, I met a couple of executives from xByte. Over that time, I got their personal info, email addresses. I think I even got phone numbers. So they just said, if there's any problems with Tyler, give us a call. I never did reach out, but that is a big deal. And yes, that was the first time I've met with any reseller. I've met with a lot of Dell people. I do have a lot of contacts over the years. I've met. There's always, it's very fluid organization, so it does change quite a bit. So it wasn't the first time meeting somebody from Dell, especially somebody who is responsible for anything like this, but that was definitely meeting some of the people. I very like I like the face-to-face contact quite a bit. I don't like to stay just, even though I prefer email as a contact, I
was gonna call you out on that.
Yeah.
You're like, really, from an email guy?
Yeah, I do still like that and something like like a Dell World is, of course, that's a great place to have that face-to-face contact. But also now, we keep mentioning that cost increases from a hardware standpoint. I believe there was also, besides the hardware cost increases, there was also a significant increase in the licensing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and that was really the storage spaces direct licensing, that was really a huge factor in it too, in overall increase of the solution that we're looking at. Of course, storage spaces direct, that's a Microsoft product. We are on Hyper-V, and I'm sure people on on VMware can also feel the pain of licensing increases. So it's not just it's
No, not at all.
Yeah, so what I've heard. I mean, it is what it is. Ultimately, they're big companies, and we're so only so much we could do. But that was definitely a very. I don't know if it was a pivotal moment, but meeting at Dell World, it definitely reassured me from the solutions expert that I met on the production floor, not on the production floor, but on the expo floor. And then meeting Tyler, and then meeting some of the xByte executives. So I think that did kind of reassure me that we were on the right track. If not an easy track, at least it was the right track for where we had to go. And you're absolutely correct that, we know that something, starting from like backups, so many companies, they are complacent with backups. It's just oftentimes it's a matter of budget. Oftentimes it's just one of those things where it's so easy to save on. Redundancy is so easy to save on because will this system work without it? Yeah, it'll work without it. Will my service be, will they work without a backup solution? Yeah, they will work without a backup solution. But again, the time, no matter how rare the time is, that it's something that when something happens, then it's going to be very costly, and that's really over the years, over several years, I've come to realize that I also enjoy my personal time. Tyler, you're still young, so you still work, pretty much 18, 20 hours a day. Josh, you probably too. But at some point, it's nice to have, it's nice to not get that phone call at 2 a.m. and when things are not working, that you can rest assured that you can sleep through the night, or worse yet, you're on vacation and then you get that call that something went wrong, and you have to fix it right now, otherwise the whole company is down.
Yeah.
So Mikko, have you ever?
I was gonna say, run real fast. There's nothing worse than when you're eating dinner, at night, and you're trying to finish your plate, and you get a you get a call. You get a call
Nice.
that server went down or something. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Mikko, have you ever been on a vacation and not taken a laptop with you?
No, I have not. However, I do always have my laptop. However, I've made it a point to go on a vacation, to go in a place where there's limited network connectivity.
Ah.
So that kind of gives me the it's more for myself. Fortunately, because of the redundancy and everything that's built into the system, those things are rare. But that gives myself a little bit of an excuse for myself to allow myself to let go. When I go on vacation, it takes me several days just to convince myself to not check my emails and things like that. That's why I prefer to just do a straight cut off, and because if I keep checking those emails, it's going to keep going on through the whole vacation. That's why there's got to be a clean cutoff. I go to somewhere where I can truly relax, and then go from there, get recharged.
There we go. So I don't think people outside of IT realize that if once you're in IT vacations, you have to have that security blanket, of having your laptop with you, even with your redundancies, everything in place. You know what? If something happens, you got to be notified. So we had to.
And I always have I always have a backup solution though. Like even though I'm on vacation. There's the other. I have a team of 2 people in the IT department, so they handle it. So they know exactly, I tell them exactly, this is the way exactly you have to contact me. If something goes wrong, I tell them, send a text message, and the text message must, be a single text message. Don't start saying,
911.
oh, hi, how's your vacation doing? Nothing like that. Just go straight to the point. It has to be a single text message. I'll see it right away on my phone, on the lock screen, and then I'll know to contact. Any other than that, voicemails, emails, something like that, no.
So you have a team of two. You mentioned with you also in IT, and for this one, you went to a partner for the first time because Dell
Yeah.
kind of forced you to, but you then grew to love Tyler. I don't want to put words in your mouth necessarily, but you appreciated the process we walked you through. That we weren't pushy. We had kind of knew the stuff, the white glove service, and then now it's time to implement the solution.
Yeah.
And again, historically, this is something you've done yourself.
Yes.
And you turned to a partner to do it.
Yeah.
This time. Yeah. Why did you do that?
Well, there's several reasons. I'm getting more. I want to say that I've done all this stuff in the past. Yes, I've racked servers. I've done all that. But in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm not the kind of IT person that loves spending all the time in technical details, in the processor models, the amount of memory that a server has. Those technical details for me are means to an end. And the same thing when it comes to implementing. I knew that we're going with a new architecture. We're going with a new system altogether. There's going to be some things that need to be figured out. Some things are not going to work immediately. We're going to need to research. If I were to do it, I know what's going to happen is I'm going to get sidetracked. It's going to left off. I get to in like weeks at a time. Then I forget completely what was the issue. That's going to drag on the process a lot. And I didn't want it to drag too much because, of course, at the same time, the company paid a lot of money for these servers. We want to put them to use. We don't want them to just sit on the shelves, on the racks, and then do nothing. So there was that. I preferred to take a little bit of hands-off strategy here, just because I wanted to, or for a while, I've wanted to do more of the strategic thinking of the IT department. So racking servers, not very strategic. So that's where I want to spend my time. I feel like that I enjoy doing more. And also because I had the team of two, so I wanted them to get really that hands-on experience. So Josh came in, and I asked my two guys in the IT department to really just shadow him, shadow Josh, give him all the help he needs. And of course, it was mostly physical help in like carrying stuff, and which is perfect. And they got to see exactly how is a cluster like this installed from starting from racking the servers and the switches and creating the cluster and doing all that configuration that is needed. So Josh was super helpful in that sense. He was great. I know it's not always easy, when you have like a junior guy, just like shadowing you. You have to show everything to them. I know it's a drag. You just wanted to get your job done and be over with. But I think overall it went really well. I think it was how many days? It was like 2-3 days that you were here on site. And really, when we started, it was literally that the servers were in a cardboard box. There was nothing racked. We started from racking the servers, and then by day 3, I think the cluster was up and running.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, an interesting point that I want to bring up for the audience here that many don't think about. It's the fact that you guys you paid for something, and the time it takes if you do it yourself to get it up and running could be months, and you're not making use of that new investment. So everything you expected to gain, you're losing out on for 2 months. So what is the value of that, of the immediacy of being able to be up and running in 3 days versus 2 months or 3 months? So that's definitely something that I want those listening to think about is, okay, what's the value of a server sitting around in a cardboard box, as you say?
Right. And again, I don't do this on a regular basis, so it's going to take me longer because there will be things that that happen. So unfortunately, that's just something that you have to think about.
So Josh, you were the one who went on site. You helped out Mikko and the team. You had them shadow you. How was that experience? And kind of what tricky things did you set up that may not be normal? I know you talked about metro volumes. So can you kind of talk about some of that architecture that you set up?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of stepping back a little bit, as Mikko and Tyler were going through the pre-sales process, I was coordinating with Tyler in the background. He was letting me know, hey, this is coming down the pike. We're going to be doing this. And I think from a customer perspective, not speaking on Mikko's behalf, but feedback I've gotten from other customers is typically whenever you're working with larger teams, if you're working with Dell Professional Services, not to talk bad, you're being handed off from one complete team to a different team. There may be some things that are lost in translation, things that have to be repeated, especially. So being that Tyler and I work closely together, beginning in the pre-sales process all the way through the deployment, there's a lot of knowledge transfer that goes on in the background to save Mikko and customer time from having to repeat themselves, making sure the right amount of cables are there, what the desired outcome is going to look like. But yeah, I personally like working with people like Tibu and Daniel on Mikko's team. I was like them back when I was doing system and network administration. Whenever it comes to dealing with stuff on a day-to-day basis, knowing how it works, how things are connected, what does it look like in a good working state, so that way you can have an idea of this isn't working, that's the problem. Being able to understand that and have that intimate knowledge of the setup process, it's definitely going to be invaluable to them. And as far as the architecture goes, like has been stated several times, the name of the game here for Mikko is redundancy. So what we've got set up today is so we've got 2 power stores set up in a metro volume, and that metro volume allows synchronous replication between the power stores and allows them to do read writes on both ends at the same time. So that gives them that level of redundancy that they're really looking for.
Right. And they're in 2 different buildings. So that was also one of the design requirements that I had, was it needs to be able, we need to be able to split this configuration in half so that each half on its own can run independently or is enough to run the entire company.
Now you mentioned backups. Do you, and this is something we didn't talk about in the pre-show discussion, so we're kind of going a little off the chain here, as the kids say.
Oh, before you get into that.
Oh yeah.
So I just wanted to say, and also myself as an IT professional, I'm the kind who I want to give out that information. I want to, like the junior IT people, whoever is in my department, I love to just give out information, teach everything that I know about everything. I know some IT guys tend to be the opposite, that they keep the knowledge really close to them, that they do not want that. They feel like, they almost feel like, they feel like it's like the safety of their job depends on it, that if you keep the secret, that the job is safe. But I don't feel like that at all. I always encourage my guys to go out and learn and ask questions and do things and hopefully learn along the way.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
It might save you from an ominous text message on vacation.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's a sign of a great leader that you want to not be the smartest person in the room. You need the other people around you to be the smartest, and you're kind of guiding them in that process. Yeah. But a little thing that we haven't talked about is you mentioned redundancies and what are you guys doing for backups? You'd mentioned the redundancy of the systems. Do you guys have a separate backup?
Yes.
Are you guys going to the cloud for anything?
Yeah, we're using a system called Datto. I don't know if you're familiar with it. So basically, Datto is there's an on-prem array. So it takes snapshots for our critical systems, the snapshots are taken every 2 minutes. They're saved on the local array, and then they get uploaded to the cloud. So in case of a loss, you can restore either from the local array or from the cloud. Of course, it's quicker to restore from the local array, but if that's not available for whatever reason, you can go to the cloud backup instead.
Awesome. Yeah. We just talked to somebody in the last couple months who went through, there was a 0-day exploit of a firewall that allowed people to get into their network, and they did not have a cloud backup at that point. And so they were able to actually delete all of their on-prem backups.
Wow.
And so and then take everything offsite, of course, to their own servers and encrypt everything. So it was a ransomware attack. And so it's something else for people to talk about. Again, the good points of this that people are listening to take away is also on the backup side of things. You can like Mikko, you may have redundant systems in 2 different buildings, but he also is thinking about this. Okay, I also need a cloud backup because something may happen to my environment, and I need something that's offsite that they can't get to.
And you know what? I'll talk about something with the backups, though. It's not a sexy solution, but I think tapes still are pretty good as far as immutable backup goes. There's no ransomware ever that's going to touch that tape on, tape backup of your system.
Do you guys do tape backups too?
We do not anymore. But years ago, before we went to data, we did. And we kept the tapes, and obviously you have to keep them in a different location. But sometimes I'm thinking for scenarios like this where even the backup gets deleted by or encrypted by a ransomware. It's crazy. Things like that. Yeah, you see all the time.
Yeah, tape is a good, somewhat lower expense way to do it.
It's the slowest, but again, at that point, if you have ransomware or something like that, at least you do have a method of recovery. I forget what the statistics were, but if you get caught by ransomware and you lose all your company IP, you're most likely going to go out of business.
Yeah. So you have backups in place. You're fully implemented. You got this. You've been live now for a few months. When did you guys go live officially?
Actually, we didn't, and we went fully live. It was the weekend of 4th of July.
Oh, just recently.
So that was when finally we were able to. That's also the thing. Our production runs because in preparation of the summer season, of course, our production runs so constantly that we just couldn't get any sufficient downtime until the 3-day weekend of 4th of July, because it was on a Friday. So we were closed Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So again, IT department works over 3-day weekend, and we were able to move our workloads to the new array. So I did get somebody commented that that the servers do feel more responsive now, which was great because I was able to increase the number of virtual processors in the VMs because of the new array. So that helped quite a bit. Even though earlier I did say that the old array was still working well. Yes, it was working well, but there was some benefit of the increased responsiveness of the system, which I'm sure the users, even though they didn't necessarily they weren't looking for it, they still appreciated it afterwards when it was done.
That's always great to hear.
Yeah.
So, and I know when we were talking in the pre-show, one of the things you're looking to do is to not tinker with it. So so you had someone else come in, they've implemented it, you guys know what to do, but you don't want to mess with it. You just want to kind of set it, forget it,
right?
And 4 or 5 years, and then look for a refresh.
Yeah,
or look
that would be the optimal situation. If now that when it's live, if I don't need to do anything, I don't need to think about it, until 4 or 5 years when it's time to refresh, nothing else happens. Not even a disk fail. That would be really great. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
There we go. Go ahead, Tyler.
No, I was going to say, and that's kind of, I think, part of the, I guess, beauty of this whole architecture that we kind of went with too, because I mean, from performance, right, we kind of have an all around upgrade, right? I mean, from an IO standpoint, we went from hybrid to all NVMe. I mean, we went to, from a host standpoint, right? I mean, I know originally you mentioned briefly the CCTV workloads, right? That I think, if I'm not mistaken, originally, I don't think it's ever happened, again, knock on wood, but originally that the CCTV footage compute host rather, if that there was only one GPU in place at the time, so that was kind of like a concern where the if that one server went down, yes, you could still be up and running for the CCTV, of course, right? But it wouldn't be as efficient. So that's where we kind of implemented. Now, every host has a GPU for the CCTV footage. We implemented additional overhead from the compute standpoint to account for your growth, because as you mentioned earlier in this call, or earlier in the video, that the amount of growth that you guys have seen as a company overall has just been exponential. So we want to make sure that the architecture can kind of back that. And I mean, even we mentioned the backups, right? Yes, it's of course important getting having that redundancy all the way down to the backups, but even before that, the amount of this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen, to kind of get to the data point. I mean, again, there's a lot of backups in place, especially with that metro synchronization between the power stores and the stretch cluster. So it's just an all around
and I also kind of like to study all kinds of disaster scenarios. I don't mean IT disaster. I mean disaster scenarios in just in the world that happen. Industrial accidents, and almost always you find out that there's a long string of events that had to happen for the disaster to happen. If any one of those steps, or at any one of those steps, you could have avoided it completely. It could start from industrial accidents, from like a simple seal on a piece of machinery, then it didn't get maintenance, didn't notice it, or whatever. It doesn't matter. So same here. So I apply the same thoughts here. That for the ultimate loss of all data, how many different steps would need to happen? Where can we mitigate the loss of every single step, or prevent every single step that could eventually lead to loss of service, loss of data, and analyze those points. And at each point, even though something like having dual power supplies on the server, it doesn't make the server any better in that sense. It still works even with a single power supply, but of course you want to have those duplicated. So looking at things like this, just to remove those points of failure, not even single points of failure, but just points of failure that could ultimately lead to catastrophic events. And that's really part of the whole looking at this system holistically and looking at different points of failure.
Yeah, and Mingo, I think that's also kind of goes back to earlier what Ryan was asking about. Just the whole process of going from the pre-sales process and kind of exploring that in to where we're at with the implementation and everything. But that's also kind of why it took so long, I think, too, because we really truly did try and poke holes in every solution that we were looking at, because we wanted to make sure that we poked holes in it before you made that purchase, before you made that investment, because again, there's just so many things that can go wrong, and we didn't want to kind of experience that. So I do want to give a quick little shout out to all the Dell teams that kind of jumped on to kind of help us out as well, because the Dell Microsoft team jumped on and they really kind of poked holes in some of the features that you're looking for with the stretch clustering, with some of the other features that you're hoping to get out of it that may not have been fully supported moving forward. And they really kind of spoke on what the moving forward, what S2D or what Azure Stack HCI can and cannot do based on your expectations. And also too, Jody Hodgland, one of the speakers at Dell Tech World, and he's a Dell global evangelist for PowerStore. He jumped on a call with us too, and he kind of spoke to just to reaffirm that, hey, what you guys are looking to do with PowerStore it can actually do, and it, all the features that you are thinking of. There's no, gotchas. There's no hidden little, except for you. I mean, even the 5-to-1 data reduction guarantee that we were talking about, right? All of that is something that they were able to kind of back for, just support that. Hey, what we're looking to do and what we're looking to implement for Stark-White for the next 4, 5, 7 years. This is something that is based and true. And even in the post sales process too, I remember there was something that we were pushing boundaries, right, looking to with Windows Server 2025 and stuff that wasn't truly validated yet by Dell,
right?
And Josh and I were able to kind of lean on our Jody and resources at Dell to essentially get what we were looking to do validated by Dell. And I know that's at the end of the process now too, where that's something that's going to be coming up in a future update for PowerStore that's going to be validated. But hey, they got it to work for you guys and validated and say, hey, what you're looking to do is going to be supported and validated. So let's get this ball rolling on this now, so that you Stark-White can essentially get ahead of the game. So that to me was one of the coolest parts too. So shout out to Dell there.
And here, I do want to point out that I couldn't have done that myself, because that's where the partner, whether it's xByte, whether it's Dell, who has those connections, is really important. Because yes, this was a solution that wasn't officially validated at that point when we implemented it, but it was close enough to getting validated, I think, that we were okay to go. I felt comfortable enough to go with it, knowing that it was just a matter of, we were talking matter of weeks, maybe, or maybe a month or something like that, when it would be officially validated. So we knew at that point that yes, we could still safely go with this. I think it was the stretch clustering, right? That was the feature specifically that we're talking about.
Yeah, Josh, do you want to get into that piece?
Yeah, it's specifically validation for the Metro Volume feature with Windows Server 2025.
Yeah, again, because I did want to go with Server 2025 instead of the previous version of Server. I think there was also because of the GPU partitioning.
Exactly. Yep. We needed 2025 because of the GPU partitioning, but 2025 wasn't supported yet, or validated yet, I should say, from a Metro a sync standpoint. So it was kind of like, okay, well, if Dell didn't come in to kind of help, save the day on that, it's like, okay, we would have to choose between, do you want to have your GPU, HA, partitioning for the high availability, or do you want to have, the Metro sync for the PowerStore? And like, no, we wanted both. And, it's, we're all or nothing. So, it's, again, just, huge shout out to Jody and the team.
And it's exactly things like this that I avoided doing myself, or I probably wouldn't have been able to do, if I had tried to stand up the cluster by myself.
Well, Mikko, it's great to see that you're now a convert to using partners of Dell's. We definitely appreciate it, and we appreciate all your time today. And I will let you know, if it puts your mind at ease, that I was part of an unbiased study, a complete unbiased study, and that we found that to avoid any kind of IT disasters, in 100% of the cases, if you talk to xByte Technologies, it prevented those IT disasters. So. Really? 100% unbiased study. We surveyed all of our customers, and that's what they told us. So we got to believe it's true. Right. We should put it on the internet so we know it's true. But Mikko, thank you for joining us today. You have been awesome. It's a great story of Stark-White and what you guys did, and kind of how we worked together to get you a great solution. And so, any last minute pieces you want to add? How can people find you out there in the world?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, and then if you want to reach out to me, I'm also on YouTube. I have a cooking channel called Finish Your Plate, or on Instagram. Yeah, so absolutely feel.
You're on Instagram?
Yeah, so you definitely feel free to reach out to me if you have any kind of technical questions about this. That would be the best way to reach out.
All right, Finish Your Plate. All right, so and that is IT, or what is that?
So I cook Finnish food on the YouTube channel, which kind of ties into the whole thing when I was saying I'm a little bit different from the typical IT guy, that I don't really care for technical details or things like that. I do like a little bit more of the softer side of IT, like I want to say it.
All right, well, Mikko, we may have to do a collab. I don't know how we'd merge the two of on-prem pros, and maybe we fly Tyler and Josh out and do
There you
food
go.
tasting with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
We can do that. You heard it here first. Look out for the Finish Your Plate and on-prem pros collab coming soon.
And absolutely buy more ice cream.
I was just gonna say,
there we go.
I was like,
Yeah, I mean, go to the store, get a pint of your favorite ice cream right now. You know what? Go to the store, get your pint of favorite ice cream. Let me know what your favorite flavor is. Let's do
I like that.
Let's do a poll. Let's see what we find out. What is the favorite flavor of people who are watching?
Oh,
Here's my parting words. Here's my tip for picking ice cream. When you go to the store, ice cream is always sold by volume, right? So it's not sold by weight. It's pints, whatever. So in order to make ice cream, what they do is they mix air into it. So the cheap ice cream will have more air whipped into it. By the one that weighs more, it has less air in it.
Huh. I had no idea. Now I know.
All right. So now you're going to go to the store, go to the freezer aisle, and take that pint to the vegetable aisle. Where they have the sale.
Yeah.
All right, which one am I going to get?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me put out my thawed ice cream back in the fridge.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Mikko, again, thank you very much. Josh, Tyler, as always, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. This is Ryan Brown for xByte Technologies for On-Prem Pros signing off. Everybody, cheers.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.